Welcome to this Facebook Live where we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can improve, grow stronger in resilience during this time of the COVID-19, during our quarantine. I'm Georgia Schaefer, and as a professional certified coach, I help people who are stuck and frustrated gain momentum towards a happier, more fulfilling life. So, during this time of the pandemic, being resilient is key. It's a skill we all need, a trait we need to possess. And you might be thinking, well, what's she talking about when she's talking about resilience? I'm talking about the ability to bounce back, your ability to adapt to whatever's going on, be flexible, learn to cope with it in this time of quarantine so that one day you can recover and bounce back. Resilience is not only going to help you endure and keep on keeping on during this time we're currently in, but as you grow stronger, it's a skill that will make you a better person the rest of your life. Hi, Laura. It's good to see you joined us. But here's what I want you to know about resilience. If you're thinking, well, it's something I really don't have. It's not a skill I possess. Somebody else is more resilient than I know, but not me. Thanks, Wendy, for tuning in. Well, here's the deal. It's not a matter whether you have resilience or not. It's an issue of developing, growing stronger in this trait. Many people I've worked with have faced difficult issues, losses. They've had to rebuild. They've had to find a new normal, which is what many of us are finding, a normal now and a new normal in the future. But they did learn to adapt. They did learn to develop these skills of resilience. So what I want you to first understand is during this pandemic, understand you're not going to have the physical, the mental, and the emotional, spiritual resources that you had 3 months ago. And you know what? That's okay. When you're in challenging times, you just can't do what you could in the past. But here's the deal. There's strength in admitting you're weak. So the first skill, the first way you can grow stronger in resilience is learn to live within your limits, whatever your current limits are in this season. Years ago, when I was in my late 30s, I had a recurrence of breast cancer and a bone marrow transplant, and I had a lot of limitations. I was very weak physically, and I can tell you I did not like it one little bit. But I also learned, like the Apostle Paul said, when we are weak, then we are strong. I experienced the power of God to give me strength, to sustain me during this difficult time. But what I also realized during that time is that 3 different times the Apostle Paul asked God to take the thorn away in his flesh. He did not like being weak either in certain areas. So he wanted it taken away. And I too wanted to grow stronger very quickly, but it took me a long time. So we don't know how long this quarantine is going to last. We do know we are already facing changes. But whatever your limits are right now, accept them. Even embrace them. Because here's what I learned, that instead of being discouraged during that time, that I didn't have the strength, the stamina, the financial resources of a lot of my friends and family, that I learned that if I shifted my perspective, accepted my limitations, I began to see them as a way that God was limiting me to only do the things He wanted me to do. I love what author and spiritual director Ruth Haley Barton has written. She said, there's something of the will of God contained in the very limits we sidestep or try to ignore. And don't we try to ignore or sidestep our limits? She said, it's not an issue of being in despair, but here's what I want to hear, and this is a quote. Rather, it honors the deepest realities of the life God has given us. And that's what we need to do with our current situation during this quarantine, is honor the current limits of our life. So what are the harshest realities of your life right now? What are the limitations you like to ignore that you're struggling with? Do you have more bills than money? Do you have more energy than is needed to do just basic things? Are you mentally and emotionally drained because you're trying to work from home and school your children? What is it that you need to accept? Because if you don't accept it, I can tell you, because I learned the hard way, you become dangerously depleted, you become discouraged, depressed, and you get to the point you just want to give up. So all of that is not developing our resilience. That is not enabling our ability to adapt and cope and recover so that one day we can bounce back. So do you need more time to rest and renew? Do you need time to do a little bit something that you enjoy, that distracts you from the harsh realities of today? Maybe you need to watch an uplifting movie. But do something that brings some pleasure into your life during this difficult time. Accept that you are human, and that rather than running on empty, you're going to accept where you are. Okay, so that's the first way, is to live within your limits. That's going to enable you to grow more resilient. The second thing is to face and work through the painful feelings. And I'm talking about the intense sadness you might experience at the loss of income or job or the lifestyle you had. But if you recognize those emotions, like your limitations, and accept them and work through them, that can be healing. Take your hurts and your resentments and look at them. Many people that I know who score high on resilience have suffered in many different ways. Many people have endured difficult challenges, but it was in their challenging times they learned to face and process all their hurts, their bitterness, their resentments. They didn't deny their loss. They didn't deny how sad they were or how angry they were, that this is where they found themselves in life. But they learned to take time to grieve, time to heal, and in many cases, time to forgive. They learned that sadness, that anger, all those painful feelings would not only not destroy them, but God could use it to transform them into someone they are better than they ever were before. So what are the painful feelings you're experiencing right now during this pandemic? Get honest with yourself. Write them down. That's what I often do. I just sort of write my feelings in a journal. I get it out and look at it. Or maybe you're an extrovert and it's easier for you to talk through your grief and all your losses. Talk with a caring friend or a counselor. Don't tell yourself you have the right to be angry or bitter. That's not going to help you grow. So the problem is you need to face your feelings, because if you don't, at some point in the future, you'll find yourself unable to do anything else but deal with your feelings. And of course, that's going to hinder your ability to adapt, cope, and recover. So what's the third way you can grow in resilience? Well, it's finding a sense of meaning and purpose in this difficult time. I don't know about you, but I don't like to be stressed. I really don't like that feeling. But I have to remember not all stress is bad. Not all stress is destructive. That some stress can be very good. And one strategy in my own life and working with my clients that I found is helpful is to encourage them to find some sense of meaning and purpose in the midst of the stressful times. Yes, I agree, stress without meaning can be destructive, but stress with a sense of meaning and purpose can be very healing and help us to grow in inner strength. So, can you find some sense of purpose in this painful time? Some sense of meaning? It's not always going to be obvious. You're going to have to look for it at times. But here's some of the things I've heard people find in this difficult time. More than one parent, whether it's on television or my friends, have said, those who have to homeschool their children are saying, boy, I have a new level appreciation for teachers. When this is all over, I think I'll work to get a pay raise for teachers. They just appreciate them on a whole new level. That gives you a sense of meaning. Or maybe you now understand the emotional struggles that your neighbor has gone through for the last year without a job, without limited income, without the chance to go out and do something that they enjoy in the workplace. A friend of mine who was recently ill for several weeks said, as she started getting stronger, she said, I now realize how harsh and uncaring I was to my husband when he was very ill. I now realize, I understand on a whole new level what it's like to be so weak. I don't even have the strength to watch television. So for her, finding a sense of meaning and purpose is she was going to be much more caring and understanding, empathetic towards others who are dealing with physical illness. So I don't know how you can grow in understanding, appreciation, and empathy, but resilient people grow through adversity. And again, I've said this several times, and they become someone so much better than they were before. So you want to live within your limits. You want to face and work through those painful emotions that you'd rather ignore. You want to find some sense of meaning and purpose in this stressful time. But since we already know, it's been a week in my area that we've been, self-contained and can't go out. And we don't know how much it's going to go on. It could be another month. So we know it's not going to disappear tomorrow. And so that brings me to our fourth bonus way of growing in resilience. And that is you have to understand the importance of persevering, the importance of enduring during this difficult, to keep on keeping on, to continue even though it's difficult. What I learned is, it's not one hot, humid summer day that wears me down. It's one hot, humid, 100-degree day after another, week after a week, that just depletes me and makes it more difficult to cope with the least little thing. It's not 1 week a prisoner of war spends in prison that's as difficult as week after week, even year after year, that can deplete that person in every level. So we don't know how long this current season is going to last. We know there's many changes we can't control, but we got to pace ourselves so that we can endure, so that we allow God to help us to sustain and keep on keeping on. I love this phrase that the Apostle Paul said in 2 Corinthians 4. He said, "We are knocked down, but we are not destroyed." And in chapter 1 of 2 Corinthians, he talked about not relying on himself or others when he was just, despairing of life itself. But he talked about leaning on God, who alone could help him get on and move on and sustain him. So here's what I want to leave you with. No matter how much life knocks you down. Let me start over there. No matter how long life knocks you down, and no matter how long it takes you to cope and get yourself back up on your feet, remember that you can become more resilient. You can become stronger, and you can become a more helpful, caring person in the future. Thank you so much. If anybody has a quick question, I'll answer it on the topic of resilience. And if not, I just thank you so much for joining us. Take care and keep on keeping on.